The ancients flew in ships and aircraft, using extraterrestrial technologies. The Istanbul rocket from Sumer is 3,000 years old. Academic circles remain silent about the origin of the object that resembles a space capsule. An artifact unexplained by science to this day is kept in the Archaeological Museum in Istanbul. A Sumerian object resembling a miniature rocket, a creation bordering on the impossible given its age. It is 3,000 years old. The so-called Istanbul shem is a stone figure approximately 23 centimeters long and 10 centimeters high. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary, battered ancient archaeological object. If you examine it more closely, however, you will notice its elongated conical shape, something like rear thrusters, and a humanoid figure that appears to be piloting the device. The Istanbul shem is considered an OO-part, out-of-place artifact. This refers to an object that appears to be outside its expected historical or technological context. It is believed to have been discovered during archaeological excavations in 1975 in the ancient city of Tushpa, also known as Toprakale, from which the mysterious object derives its nickname, the Toprakale Space Shuttle. This city is located northeast of Lake Van, in the region where the kingdom of Urartu existed between 830 and 612 BC. Thus, we see a person seated in a capsule shaped like a projectile, with hands resting on what looks like a control panel. The rear part is equipped with something resembling stabilizers or aerodynamic fins, similar to those of a modern rocket. The artifact is made of plaster and marble dust. The most in-depth study of the space module was carried out by Zakaria Sitchin. It was his assumption that the find is about 3,000 years old. Sitchin described the artifact as a sculptural model of what at first glance appears to be a space rocket with a conical nose, powered by a set of 4 engines at the rear surrounding a larger central engine. The rocket has room for a single pilot, who is indeed depicted and included in the sculpture. Sitchin visited Turkey in 1997 and met with the museum director, Dr. Alpay Pasinli. The director kept the artifact in a drawer, took it out, and showed it to Sitchin, who managed to photograph it. In 1993, a photograph of the strange artwork was also taken by a photographer from the British publication 14 Times. Sitchin called the object the Istanbul shem because he associated it with the theory of ancient extraterrestrial visits described in his book, The Lost Kingdoms. Sitchin translated numerous Sumerian texts in which the word shem is mentioned. Vehicles of the Anunnaki gods, which by description resembled spacecraft. Assyriologists believed the term referred to a temple or divine glory. Sitchin was convinced that it was a spacecraft capable of transporting the gods from Earth to the heavens. The Archaeological Museum in Istanbul keeps this shem, but no official information has ever come from the museum about the exhibit, neither regarding its origin nor where and when it was found. The museum's curators decided that this small artifact was a forgery, since it differed from the style of the Sumerian period, and what it depicted did not match the dating. Local academic circles are skeptical about the exhibit. They claim that chemical and petrographic analyses conducted by the Department of Monuments and Museums at the Ministry of Art and Culture have shown that Sitchin's theories do not correspond to historical reality. Astronaut drawings found in Mexico. The ancients were familiar with advanced technologies that took them into the sky and even into space. According to some researchers, they may even have been able to travel through time, all thanks to super technologies obtained from far more advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. Evidence for this can be found throughout the ancient world, particularly frequently in the Americas. Under public pressure, in 2012 the Mexican government declassified Mayan finds and documents. This was the period when various prophets and ordinary pessimists claimed that the end of the world was coming because a cycle of the centuries, old Mayan calendar, was ending. The government came under enormous pressure from around the world and was forced to declassify items that had been kept secret for more than 8 decades. Among them were finds from a still poorly studied pyramid in Calakmul, an ancient city in the center of the Yucatan Peninsula and one of the great capitals of the Maya. According to Mexican archaeologists, a large part of these artifacts are fakes. On some tablets, people can be seen flying rockets, dressed in spacesuits, and performing spacewalks. Others claim that the tablets are completely authentic, and that it is merely imagination that sees astronauts there, while the clothing is simply ordinary pre-Columbian attire. As for the devices, they are merely depictions of Mayan cosmology, of the cycle of life, and nothing more. UFO researchers, however, go even further and claim that these tablets from the Calakmul pyramid depict interstellar travel. The fact that the Mexican government kept them hidden for so long only deepens the mystery. Scientists, however, argue that it was not a matter of concealment, but of the inability to prove extraterrestrial connections with the Maya and even more ancient indigenous civilizations of Central America. Still, a great doubt remains when viewing some of the tablets, on which there appear to be people in spacesuits flying spacecraft. Some even connect them with well-known Bulgarian images. These are the famous murals in the small church of Saint Theodore Tyran and Saint Theodore Stratelates in the village of Dobarsko near Razlog. The most intriguing among them depict Christ's descent into hell and the opening of the gates of paradise for reincarnating souls. Here the Savior is shown in something resembling a rocket. This is even more clearly seen in another icon, the Transfiguration of Christ, which shows Jesus in an already launched rocket. In addition to the mysterious tablets from the Mayan pyramid in Calakmul and the frescoes from the church in Dobarsko, UFO researchers cite further examples from earlier times when, according to them, there may have been connections between worlds, and extraterrestrials may have given our ancestors access to technologies and knowledge of which we now know nothing. In present-day Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru, ancient gold artifacts have been found that UFO researchers liken to jet airplanes. These ancient figurines have aerodynamic shapes and have repeatedly been tested by modern engineers, who have shown that the devices are fully capable of gliding and diving even without fuel. There are various debates about what these golden airplanes actually are. Official science considers them stylized figures of animals, birds, or insects. Others say they depict ancient gods, such as Viracocha. UFO researchers, however, believe that these figurines are echoes of contacts with extraterrestrials. There is even a theory that an alien base was built near the sacred city of Tiwanaku. Ships from civilizations of other worlds landed there. Observing them, ancient people tried to recreate some of the flying machines. Some locate this base at Pumapunku, just 72 kilometers west of La Paz. Others search for it in different places. But at Pumapunku, there are strange stone blocks that resemble interlocking components. One theory states that when assembled, they represented something like launch platforms for ships. At Pumapunku, there are even more intriguing finds than the golden airplanes and alleged alien runways. There is a wall on which numerous heads are depicted. No two are alike. Most curious is that the wall depicts heads of races and ethnic groups that ancient Native Americans should not have known before the arrival of Columbus. There are various indigenous American ethnicities, but also figures with distinct African features, others resembling Australian Aboriginals, some that look like typical Europeans, and still others with slanted eyes and features of the vast Asian ethnic groups. Archaeologists claim this is mere coincidence. UFO researchers, however, believe it is all the result of contacts with ancient extraterrestrial travelers who transported people back and forth across the planet. When gold was being mined and crafted into ornaments in Varna, such as those found in the famous necropolis, there existed in the territory of today's Iraq a civilization now called the Ubaid culture, named after the settlement of Al-Ubaid, where the first finds were discovered. It is not known who these people were, but they are believed to be connected to the later arriving Sumerians. This civilization developed between 6500 and 3800 BC. Interestingly, ancient clay figurines have been found depicting strange beings. Later, some researchers claimed these were the legendary star visitors, the Anunnaki of Sumerian mythology. Yet these figures clearly predate the Sumerians. A number of statues from the Ubaid period depict strange, lizard-like humanoids in unique, secular poses. This is interpreted as showing that these beings were not gods, like the Egyptian gods with animal heads, but rather a race of lizard people. Of course, these statues have given rise to countless stories and theories about extraterrestrial reptiles who once inhabited the Earth and, according to conspiracy theories, still do. For now, however, their true nature remains a mystery.